Northumbria Police Constable PC Jon Hodgson has been found guilty of gross misconduct. A woman who has not been named, who was known to the police and whose information was flagged with mental health issues including self-harm markers, called police in January 2021 saying that she was suicidal. Later that day she called police again. I assume they failed to turn up or offer any assistance the first time, but after the second call, PC Hodgson and a probationary officer arrived at the woman's home. The misconduct hearing panel heard how body cam footage from Hodgson's own camera shows him speaking to the woman, telling her that he is going to lock her up, to which the woman asked why. Hodgson replied, "Because you can't be trusted to look after yourself." Hodgson then asked the woman 4 times why she had called the police, and each time the woman explained that she was suicidal. To which Hodgson asked, "And what do you think the police can do about it?" The woman said, "Help me and talk to me, like the police did earlier, and be nice to me." Hodgson replied, "No, because that was earlier on. Now we're pretty much sick of you." Now, I genuinely understand that police are not the community mental health team, nor do they have the training to deal with people who are in crisis. But then again, neither do I. However, when someone calls me and they're in a crisis or feeling depressed, I stop what I'm doing and I help them as best that I can, even if that's just listening to them. To me, that's the least we should expect from any decent human being. And before you start on me, I know the police should be dealing with crimes, but when they have enough time to go around chasing people over civil matters and getting themselves involved in hurty words, then they have a little time to spend with someone who's in crisis, genuine crisis, which in turn will prevent the police from being called out again and again until eventually they're called out to recover a body, which will take far more time than talking someone out of doing something stupid. Anyway, the panel heard the evidence and decided that PC Hodgson's conduct was, quote, "totally inappropriate and wholly unacceptable behaviour for a police officer," unquote. The panel found that he aggravated her situation and caused her real distress, with the woman describing being scared and at times terrified. Now, in all fairness, that could simply have been down to mental health crisis rather than because the police. But PC Hodgson accepted his behaviour was unacceptable. Alleged medical evidence provided to the panel is said to have shown that PC Hodgson had an identifiable mental impairment at the time, with him suffering stress, depression and burnout syndrome. I can't say I've heard of burnout syndrome before, but if he had this, then I ask myself, why was he working? I mean, a quick breakdown of these identifiable mental impairments, okay, suggests that stress, as we all know, is the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. Not exactly ideal for a police constable to be suffering from. Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. Again, not ideal for a police constable to be suffering with. And burnout syndrome is characterised by feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negative or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. Now that makes this constable a danger, if you ask me. So he should not even have been working while in that state, and if they were identifiable impairments, why were they not identified prior to this incident? Anyway, the panel decided to issue PC Hodgson, who was described as a very well thought of officer, a final written warning instead of dismissal, concluding there was no likelihood of his conduct being repeated. PC Hodgson can continue to serve as a police officer with his mental health being monitored, subject to a 2-year warning period. Now, I don't know how they can say that with certainty, that this conduct won't be repeated. If his job has caused him to have these identifiable mental impairments, then it's more likely than not that he will either continue to have them or he will get them again in the future. Now, I will say that I don't necessarily disagree with the constable being issued a warning rather than dismissal in this case. I suffer mental health issues myself, and in this case it would seem to me that it was not necessarily PC Hodgson's fault, rather it was the force's fault for not identifying that something was wrong and dealing with it before it got to this stage. I've said before that police should undergo a yearly psych evaluation, which would identify early stages of potential mental health issues, as well as hopefully uncover some of those sickos that hide behind the uniform. But in this case, I would blame the force rather than PC Hodgson himself. It's just a good thing that the woman wasn't pushed into doing something stupid by the actions of Hodgson, who would have taken the blame for it, even though, as I say, it is my opinion, the force's responsibility to make sure that their staff are mentally stable. Big thank you to channel supporters, especially these guys. Your support is truly appreciated. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.